Nation. The hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews. It's your number one source. Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
Welcome to another stocked and loaded episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important hobby news, discussions, debates, opinions, info, and interviews with key hobby and sports dignitaries. Also, if you're good, you know we are going to give away something. Now, here's the guy that wanted the cards more than the gum. John Newman.
Welcome to episode 80 of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the big 80. Here we are, 80 episodes later. Who would have thunk it? Doing really, really well. Happy to be here, back for another episode, and hopefully a great one. I got a great guest, that's for sure. He's one of the Topps 2020 artists, Joseph Ari Aloi, or you may know him, a.k.a. JK5. If you're listening to this episode on the day of release, which is Friday, June 12th, wish JK5 a happy birthday. Today is his birthday. So June 12th, JK5's birthday, and what a better way to celebrate it than have his appearance be on the show today. Just by chance, I wish I could say we planned it, but just happenstance. But if you see him on social media or you want to reach out, wish JK a happy birthday. Great guys. You're going to meet him during the interview, and it was a pleasure. He resides in my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. He's famous tattoo artist, but he does a lot of different other things. We're going to talk about that. And someone who's into tattoos and has tattoos right up my alley. And he resides right now in my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. So that's always a cool thing. And so we're going to talk about his career, how he got hooked up with Topps, and his approach to the project, and all that fun stuff. And really good guy. You know, everyone we've interviewed from this project has been really a great person, very accommodating. And that's the beauty of this project, is all the artists are really putting themselves out there as far as their work goes, and as they go. I mean, they're interacting with the fans and the collectors, and it's refreshing to see that. You know, it's not where they're just hiding in their studio, sending their work to Topps, and there's no interaction. I mean, they could do that, and I mean that's all they're obligated technically to do. But all these artists are mingling with the fans, you know, and coming on podcasts such as myself, which I really appreciate that, and really seem to be enjoying the task at hand, and that's a beautiful thing. And so happy to have Joseph on the show today, and we're going to talk a little bit about his approach, what he does, his career, and some interesting stuff from Joseph. So we're not going to delay any further. Let's get this thing rolling. Time for this week's incoming product releases. All right, time for this week's release schedule. On June 12th, 2020, Leaf Flash Football. Also on June 12th, 2019-20, Panini National Treasures Basketball. Also on the 12th, 2020, TriStar Hidden Treasures Autograph Photos Football Edition. Also, June 12th, 2020, Sage Aspire Football. On the 17th, 3 releases. 2020 Panini Prism Baseball. 2019-20 Upper Deck Ice Hockey. And 2020 Topps UFC. And on the 19th, 3 releases. 2020 Topps Big League Baseball. Hobby. On the 19th, 2019 Leaf Valiant Baseball, and also on the 19th, 2020 Topps Pro Pro Debut, Baseball Hobby, and Jumbo. So that gets you all the way through June 19th. As always, with things going on with the pandemic, it may cause some delays or interruptions in those releases, but things are ramping up better than they have been previously.
Sports Card Nation Podcast is your weekly hobby and sports podcast. Now on tons of platforms including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and many more. Listened to in 44 different countries globally, Sports Card Nation is one of the most interactive podcasts around, providing great content, giveaways, and some of the hobby's best interview guests without time constraints. Thousands can't be wrong. We want to thank all the wonderful listeners around the world, our awesome guests on the show, and our tremendous sponsors making us what we are today. Remember, without you, there's no us.
It's time for What's Cracking. Start off this segment with some well wishes of recovery to a person I actually do not know personally, but he's pretty well known in the hobby itself. The owner of Baseball Card Exchange, Steve Hart. They're famous for all the unopened vintage wax, current wax, and just wax in general. And so he was diagnosed with COVID-19, and last report doing all right, but we want to send out wishes of recovery to him and really anyone else afflicted by the virus. All right, let's talk about something else other than Topps 2020 off the bat. We are going to talk about Topps 2020, but we'll save that for a little bit later in this segment. Let's talk about another Topps product coming out in November. It's the Topps 2020 Chrome Black. It will feature a mixture of black matte and chrome. From the spec sheet, I gotta admit, it looks pretty sharp. One thing I'm not a big fan of, it's one pack per box product, 12 boxes per case, and each box will only have 4 cards in it. $75 suggested retail price. Suggested, as we know, everything wax just goes insane. It'll be interesting to see if that will still be going on in November, or will these things be $150 for the 4 cards you're going to get out of them. Each pack will have those 4 cards, an encased autograph, 2 base cards, and a numbered refractor parallel. It's a 100-card set, so your 2 base cards per pack. It's to put this set together. Going to be a nightmare for set collectors, so God bless you. May the force be with you, as they say. Again, $75, 100-card set. Refractors, parallels will be to $199, green refractors to $99, blue refractors to $75, gold refractors to $50, orange to $25, red to $10, red 5s, and obviously superfractor 101s. Autographs will be basically current stars, veteran stars, and rookies, and even those will have parallels. Refractors to $150, green refractors to $99, gold to $50, orange to $25, red to $5, and superfractors 101. And so, again, really sharp looking product, a little high price point, and we'll be lucky if we get them for $75 a box. That's the suggested retail price. I'm going to try to get some myself. We'll see how that goes, but definitely like the product. There was early talk that it might be an online exclusive. I even heard something maybe to Montgomery 582 members, which I am one of. I would have kind of liked that, but nope, it's going to be a general release product. So 12 boxes per case. So 48, you buy a whole case, you're going to get 48 cards, and 2 are going to be base. You're actually going to get, in a case, 24 base cards out of a 100 card set. So that'll give you an example of how hard that set is actually going to be to put together. So let's talk about the Industry Summit. We know the National was moved the date till the week before Christmas in December. The Industry Summit, which is scheduled for September the 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th, remains as scheduled in Vegas. And it's something I'm really debating whether I can attend and go, and I'll have to see what work, but I'm hoping that's a potential possibility. We'll stay tuned there. T206, Topps' online version of the mini cards of yesteryear. Series 1 is now complete online sale, and they moved on to the second wave, Series 2. And so you will no longer be able to purchase online Series 1. And Series 2 is now for sale, I believe, for the next 30 days. And I believe there's going to be 6 series. So we're 1/3 of the way, a little bit, not quite yet, through the 6 series. And let's finish it off with our weekly Topps 2020 project update. It's still taking the hobby by storm. A little cooled off, if you will. We had that 99K print run with the Shore Griffey. Everyone and their mother coming over, as they say, and getting in, jumping on the boat. And, prices then did subsequently drop. Everyone kind of jumped back off the boat, if you will. And then print runs kind of seem to settle in that 10 to 15,000 on the high end. Occasional 20,000 print run, depending on the card and artist. And then even some in the 8,000 range. So I think that's going to kind of be the base model, if you will, is that $8,000 to $12,000, $8,000 to $12,000 card print run, maybe an occasional 20. Now with card 100 that they released last week, which was the Trout Jameson Baller collaboration card, Topps kind of sprung a surprise and said that starting with that release and every subsequent Trout release going forward, there was going to be randomly inserted, much like the Gold 101s, they're going to randomly insert 10 Trout autographs. It won't be that actually commissioned card, but another card. So you may order 5 Trout cards, and you have the chance at one of those being a number 210 autograph card. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed if and when that happens. And so the chase for Trout autos begins. I did a contest on our Twitter page to whoever gets the closest to guessing that print run of that card would win a copy of that card when I get it. We do have a winner. And I actually I thought we had a shot at a 200,000 print run card with that card, the collaboration, then the announcement. And surprisingly, it's still a big number, but 75,000 copies were ordered. And I'm a little surprised by that. I thought for sure that would eclipse the Shore Griffey. I really did. And especially with the autograph announcement, but it didn't. I'm a little surprised at that number. I'm surprised with some of the other ones didn't bring a little more higher print run. I think a lot of the quick flippers, if you will, I think they gave up, or at least for now, temporarily, stepped aside, and now those print run numbers have kind of come down. And, I get sometimes in my DMs, people who know I'm interviewing a lot of the artists, and they know I buy and the 2020 project cards. They've asked me, kind of my take, what should they do? And I know it's sort of the cop-out answer, but I honestly, at this point, would just buy cards you really like. Until those print runs maybe even come down a lot further, which I don't know if they will. Just if you like a card, if you like a player, like for me at this point, I don't have them all. I have a majority of them, but any of the Jackie Robinson releases I'm going to pick up, and any of the other cards that really kind of do it for me. Like I'm not a huge Jeter guy, but I like the Ermsey Jeter, so I grabbed a couple of those. And anything, I liked King Saladin, who was just on the show last week. His Ryan really kind of popped to me. I'm not necessarily a Ryan guy. I haven't bought all the Ryans. As a matter of fact, I don't think I bought any of the Ryans, but I really liked his Ryan, so I grabbed that. I like Gregory Siff's stuff. I tend to get his stuff, and so that's my advice to you, is not so much buy on money making only. I mean, I'm sure that's always in the back of your mind. You don't have to apologize for that, but at this point I think I would just buy to a card that does it for you, that attracts you, you like it, you like what it looks like, and you kind of want to own it. Not so much to have to flip it or resell it, but if you don't, you're not going to have buyer's remorse, that sort of thing. Have fun with the project. We still got almost over 300 cards to go, so hang in there. It's going to be a wild ride. It's not done yet. There's going to be some more peaks and valleys, and who knows what other surprises Topps may throw our way. One of One Card Shop offers a tremendous breaking experience, great customer service, and they're constantly pulling fire. Steve and his family take care of you like one of their own and treat you right. Anyone can break, but no one treats you like One of One. Come check them out on Instagram at one_of_one_card_shop. For all the hot breaks, get a gold mailer headed your way.
I know the chunky that left these chunkies. Newman! Open the door, Newman. I know you're in there.
Hello, Cherry. All right, it's time for Newman's Rambling, where I select one question I get each week and answer it on the air.
John, you seem like an astute man.
Thank you, Mr. Walken.
Maybe you can help explain something to me.
Well, I'll give it my best shot. Today's question comes by way of Twitter from BGS Cards 5, and this question reads, John, what do you think of Panini blockchain? And do you have any, or will you have any? And so I'll answer that question like this. It's a good question. It's something I kind of wanted to talk about before I even got this question in the DM. But there's two variations, if you will, of Panini blockchain. Something that actually has a feasible card and some that doesn't. So I'm going to just speak to the one that doesn't, which is I think the majority of it. And when you were a kid, and when I say kid, like 4 or 5 years old, maybe even 6, and you had that imaginary friend, and whatever you named him, Billy or Bobby or Mikey, and you conversate with him, or you pour him a cup of coffee in your 4 or 5, 6-year-old mind, you talk to him, and your mom or dad would say, John, who are you talking to? And you'd say, oh, my friend Bobby. And like, your friend Bobby? Who's your friend Bobby? And you'd hold out your hand to the air and say, he's right here. Don't you see him? My friend Bobby. Oh, yeah. And your parents would play along. Oh, yeah, hey, Bobby, how's things going? Oh, he said good. Right? Your imaginary friend. And everyone had one, or almost everyone had one. Well, that's what Panini blockchain is to me. And so I don't believe in anything. Like, that's fun when you're 4, 5, and 6 to have an imaginary something or other friend, or even a pet. I've heard of kids having imaginary pets, but I don't believe in imaginary cards. So the cards either really exist or what are they? You know what I mean? Say, hey, look at this Jordan Auto blockchain I own. But what do you own? You know, it's that imaginary friend. It's just a now card form. And it's not as cute anymore when you grow up as it is when you're kids. And so there's the short answer of what I think of Panini blockchain. If it's like Topps Bunt and there's just a digital picture and not a hard copy, you can't have that in your hand as an actual feasible, tangible item. And I'm not interested in it. I don't like, pretending anymore. I guess I'm too honest of a guy. It's fun when you're a kid, but now it's real life. And so either it exists or it doesn't. Is it a ghost? And we can debate the existence of ghosts or other things, if you will, or not. So to me, a card either exists in physical form or it doesn't. And, much of this Panini blockchain is kind of pretend cards. If you disagree with me, you want to call me out and say I'm underestimating it or not giving it proper due credit, I'm all for it. Come at me. But to me, you either own the card or you don't own the card. Now, I understand you get a redemption card and you redeem it online. You got to wait for that card to show up. And in a sense, that's imaginary too. But at least you're supposed to get it. And it exists in physical form. You just don't have it yet. Where some of these blockchain cards are just digital format, and you'll never get a real card. You could trade a digital card. I can trade you my Jordan autographed jersey digital card, but what are you getting? A picture on your phone or your desktop or laptop? So I don't know. Unless that thing's in hand, it's nothing that will ever interest me. Topps Bunt, Upper Deck E-Pack. At least with some of those cards, you can get them in their physical form and sent to you, and I appreciate that. But if you can't have the card in your hand, put it in a binder, put it in a top loader, semi-rigid, soft sleeve, whatever the case may be. If you can't send it off to get graded and slabbed, then what do you have? It doesn't exist. It's a figment of your imagination. I like them to call it the Panini figment of imagination, the FOI, F-O-I, Panini FOI. The Star Stock selling platform is fully live and fully functional. It's fast becoming one of the premier sports card marketplaces. They aim to be the fastest, most efficient place to buy and sell your cards. They offer no ingestion fees. They do all the legwork, scan your cards to the site, and cards are held safely in the secure vault. Their 5% sales commission is one of the lowest in the industry. Currently, they are looking for rookie and prospect cards, and now they also are accepting graded cards as well. If you're interested in selling on the site, please email Mike at the following email address: mike@starstock.com. All right, real excited to have my next guest on the 101 Card Shop guest line. He's one of the Topps 2020 project artists, multi-talented. I'm not going to make him wait too long. Mr. Joseph Ari Aloi, a.k.a. JK5. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here, sir.
So, where to begin? You have a lot of different backgrounds in arts. Tattoo artist, and I'm a tattoo guy, so that's near and dear to my heart. You've designed a toy for Kid Robot. You've done graffiti. You've worked for Nike, Converse. You're a graduate of the Rhode Island School of Design. I mean, definitely accredited. I mean, I always ask this to every artist I do have on the program, Joseph. When did you know, like, this is something that you were going to pursue and hopefully, in your case, were successful to do as a career?
Well, I am happy to report that I never really had a choice, and I knew from a very early age that I love to draw. All I wanted to do was draw. It's how I expressed myself. It's where I found peace and solace and sanctuary. It's where I knew I excelled. And I was 7 when Star Wars came out in 77.
Yep.
And, and then a world of other pop culture that was happening around the time. And I knew as soon as I could really hold a crayon that it was something I loved, and I honestly just haven't stopped. And I'll be 50 in June. So I'm really grateful, man. I never really gave it a second thought. It's just something that came very naturally to me, and it's something I've put a million hours into in my lifetime. Yeah, man, I've never really second-guessed that I would somehow be an artist and earn my living that way. And it just really evolved and unfolded.
Yeah, and like the cliche saying goes, if you enjoy really what you do and you have a passion for it, it's like you're not really working. I know there's probably some days are better than others, but to have that passion and to get to do it, I get there's something to be said about that.
Yes, for sure.
So it's the this is a sports card podcast. Mm-hmm. It's the standard question I've asked some of the other 2020 collaborators. Did you collect cards as a kid, even whether it be non-sports or sports?
I did, man. I love baseball cards. I've been aware of Topps as a brand universe, if you will, since the 70s. And I played pretty serious baseball until I was 12 or 13. And my father was on the farm team and played AAA ball for a couple of seasons for the Yankees in 1958 and 59.
Wow.
Growing up an hour north of Manhattan, we went to 13, 15 games a season, and the Yankees were like gods to me. And, the Yankee Stadium in the Bronx in the 70s was like Olympus, but like a really, crazy Olympus, if you will.
Yeah.
But they were really important formative years for me. And as a visual artist, I always kind of cross-pollinated and correlated what it was like to be an artist and an athlete. I just thought they were very, very similar. It was just where you put your energy, where you put your time and training. I love baseball cards. My friends and I all collected. And one thing I loved about Topps that I have really vivid memories of is they didn't just have baseball cards or sports cards. They had movie cards. They had the popular TV show cards. And I remember everything from Charlie's Angels and Kiss and Star Wars and Mork and Mindy and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So the format, the vehicle of a trading card, I've been aware of and I've loved since I was a kid.
And here you are, all these years later, and you're part of that. I mean, you probably didn't imagine then you'd be working even with Topps and doing what you're doing now. I mean, that's just crazy when you think about that.
It's a really special full circle cycle, man. I mean, I collaborated with Topps 2 other times.
Okay.
Once was an artist series where I just chose 4 pieces of mine, and then they formatted it in a well-designed way on a card. So the image of the art was on the front, and all my stats, if you will, were on the back. Yeah. And then in 2008, because I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, you can certainly see some of the iconography and imagery and sort of celebration in the work. And in the different styles. But in 2008, I did a series of die-cut Stormtrooper and Darth Vader heads. And I chose to do, I think, 100 each, and then they were produced as a series. And they were really, that was just such a fun project. They were really wonderful to work with. So when this popped up again, it was a no-brainer. I jumped at the chance. I think there's just a really cool opportunity to really sort of synthesize and blend the world of art and the world of sports. And again, I draw a lot of parallels there. So kind of a natural marriage for me.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny hearing you talk about even some of those 70s non-sports issues. I'm just a couple years younger than you. And I even remember, Jaws, which funny story there.
The Jaws cards were so dope.
Yeah.
I still have them. I have a huge box of those cards.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to do something creative with them. We'll see if that ever happens. But I loved all those cards.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah.
Special stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's the funny story with Jaws. I was raised by my grandparents in Brooklyn. I don't know if I've ever told this story on the air. And
It's time to tell the story.
So the first movie, both my grandparents are unfortunately no longer with us, but the first movie my grandfather ever took me to as a 5-year-old, mind you, was Jaws. And I remember we were in the Plymouth Valiant and we got a flat tire on the way to the movie theater. And at 5 years old, I had no idea. I thought they just played it one time, and if you missed it, you were out of luck. And so we got a flat tire. I'm, in the car, and my grandfather's changing it, and I'm like, Grandpa, we're gonna miss the movie. We're never gonna see it. And he's like, no, John, if we miss the one, we'll catch another one. And so that was the first time I realized, like, there's more than one showing of the movie. Obviously. So obviously,
of a child's brain or
you're 5 years old. Right? You think you get there in time, or it's tough luck, And
but I have to say something. As a father, I don't know if I approve of your grandfather taking. Jaws, man.
It's funny, Joseph. When I tell that story to people, they're like, "Your grandfather took you to Jaws at 5 as your first movie," and here's where I'm getting. So I went to the movie, scared the bejeebers out of me. I didn't want to take a bath or go anywhere near the ocean for seemed like years, and a little bit traumatized.
Oh, man, that's a good story. Spielberg really did his job.
Yeah.
There was a phobia that was rampant around the country and around the world at the time, because I love that movie.
Yeah.
It was such a seminal film for early Spielberg, and I'm a big fan of his, and I've done all kinds of research and reading through the years, and the whole world was scared to go in the water because of that piano theme, right? And
it's crazy.
It did the trick, man.
I'm in my bathtub at 5-6 years old, getting a bath, and I'm looking around me like waiting for like a fin to like pop up. And
you poor thing. That's hilarious. Wow.
But I'll be honest with you, I love the ocean now. I got over it. I've scuba dived and did all that. I kind of got over all those.
At some point, you're like, that was just a movie.
Yeah.
It's kind of rare for sharks to attack humans.
It is. And then when you get older, you realize like all that stuff, your mind processes it at that proper age, and you figure it out. And but a funny story, and it's funny you said that, because whenever I've told that to someone, they're like, they look at me like, is your grandfather a good guy? And I'm like, he is. It's just he wanted to see the movie, and I got taken along for it.
That's amazing, man. I'm going to chalk that up to just parenting in general in the 70s. Being thrown around in the backseat of a station wagon with no seatbelt, no car.
Yeah, it's a different age.
I'm a grandfather, and I'm going to take my 5-year-old to see a movie about a great white killer shark.
Yeah, and he was a great guy, and God rest his soul. And I wouldn't change a thing. Even the movie, I'm a huge, I love the movie now. Like at the time, I've seen it probably 3 or 4 more times since then in its entirety, and I appreciate it more now. As a grown up than I did as a young kid who was just a little bit freaked out right after that. So, but
the same here, man. It's a masterpiece. It's a classic.
It is.
Schneider.
It is, yeah. And here's another funny segue. You mentioned, obviously Roy Schneider, the star of that movie. My grandfather actually had a resemblance to Roy Schneider. So, wow. It just kind of full circle. I don't know if that's why he liked the movie, but, or why we went, but people who saw my grandfather, at that age, you always said, man, you look a little bit like Roy Schneider. And he goes, I don't know. So, but,
good stuff.
Yeah, crazy, and I thought you might appreciate that. We're kind of from the same era and stuff. So, but getting it back on the rails with so Topps just kind of from the prior collaborations, they just kind of reached out and say, hey, let's have you do this for us too.
Well, I don't know if it was connected. I've had a manager that I'm working with for a while now, and he brought me the gig. He just got me the project and thought it was a really perfect fit for me, and the rest is history thus far.
Yeah, and you know, I know I spoke to you a little bit before we came on the air, and I'll say it on the air, just the same thing I said off it. The work you've done on the project so far has just been insane, if you ask me. I mean, you know, at the time that we're doing this interview, you've done in Mays, Ted Williams, Ichiro, Clemente. You know, for those who haven't seen it, you better go check it out, buy some as well. But you know, I would describe them like line drawings with just such intricate details. I mean, and the way you hide sort of words and numbers in the piece itself is just so subtle, and I love it. I mean, kind of talk about maybe your style or your process. And you know, did you know kind of when you got the assignment, so to speak, did you kind of know right off the bat what you had in mind, or did it just as you progressed, you did it?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you so much for those kind words, and that was really articulate. I appreciate you describing the work.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Well, there's a lot I could say. I mean, I knew I wanted a really cohesive, uniform series stylistically.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw the JPEGs of the cards, I fell in love with the range of the graphic design and the layout and the design of the cards themselves, because there's such a variety through the decades, right?
Yeah.
Some have iconography, some have a mascot.
Yeah.
Some cut and pasted. Some is an opportunity to really realistically render a portrait. There's figurative elements, there's type, there's signatures. So I approach everything really openly and with a love of just pure creativity and reactivity, if you will. So I started doing sketches and studies, and everything I do is sort of creating something from nothing, from scratch every time. I'm a real manual, hands-on artist. I don't use the computer at all.
Yeah.
I thank my tattoo background for 25 years, and I've just always been that guy. I just need a pencil in my hand and a blank piece of paper. And that's just my generation. I just never got into Photoshop or Illustrator. I know it's an amazing tool for some, but I just like to draw. So I knew that I wanted to distinguish my series with just pen and ink, because I could get really intricate, even though they're scaled down to such small baseball card dimensions. I knew with, you know, the right amount of cleanup and sort of doctoring with the computer without vectorizing it, you could really get intricate. So pen and ink was definitely my jam from the beginning, because it's just a medium I like to work in. The little touch of color just keeps it really cohesive and interesting. And speaking to that for a second, there's going to be more color, and the styles themselves are just going to kind of evolve and get fleshed out and realized even more as finished works now that I've got 13 more cards to go. I've only 4 cards have dropped. I finished 7. I've got Jeter on deck in the bullpen, you know, like right now on deck, pun intended. Yeah, man. So for these, my plan was sort of a simple system of, I mean, it's deceptively simple when you see the cards, right? But the plan was to just render the cards and pay homage to them as they are, and then overlay a dimension of real imaginative, sort of out of this world take in reaction to all the elements, to the portrait, to the figurative, to the graphic, to the mascot imagery and iconography, to the signature itself, kind of animating and bringing to life what's on that card. So it's really sort of about marrying, you know, what's there on Earth, if you will, and then taking it out of this world with my nerdy love of sci-fi and Star Wars and mythology and comics, and sort of giving a supernatural facet to what's really happening with these players and sort of mythologizing them and that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you call it simple to someone like myself who looks at it. To me, it is not real simple. Maybe for you.
No, I mean, it's funny. I know that I really set myself up and they're really intricate, but I'm just saying I start with a simple idea that I'm going to render the card, right? I'm going to study, get it as accurate as possible, and then I'm going to see what catalysts and what little sparks exist within the content itself that's there, the information that I'm working with, that then inspires a whole other layer of just wild imaginative style,
We're going to step aside for a quick break, but more with JK5 when we come back. Pastime Marketplace offers a line of durable graded card cases made for collectors who want high-quality graded card storage that is virtually indestructible. Their cases are waterproof, dustproof, airtight, and designed to protect your valuable collection. Check them all out at www.pastimemarketplace.com. Protect your best with the best. We are back with Joseph Ari Aloi, JK5. And you mentioned like sci-fi is near and dear to you. One thing with the Ted Williams card, if anyone,
that was my first one.
Yep, I noticed like the lasers from his eyes, and I'll ask you, my interpretation. That's the beauty of art. Anyone can kind of put their own interpretation on it. My initial interpretation,
all open to interpretation.
Yep. My initial one in seeing that, Joseph, was, being a great hitter, last guy to bat 400. That was, to me, like you saying, he had like laser focus vision type of thing.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, man, you got it. I mean, it's so open to interpretation, but again, it's trying to articulate through the style and the concept the correlation between being a superhero and being an athlete.
Yeah, and it just again, if for those that haven't seen, JK5's work, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go check that stuff out. Just crazy. Is there a particular? I know every one of them's personal to you, and you're doing your best with each one. Is there a player maybe you're looking that you haven't done yet that maybe you're sort of looking ahead and man, I can't wait till that's up on my rotation? Is there or not necessarily?
Well, again, thank you for the kind words, man. And I will say I just finished the pencil stage of my Derek Jeter 1993 draft pick card.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, but it's I'm trying to take it to a new level with each and every card. So get ready for Derek Jeter.
That's cool.
To speak a little bit more to that, the Mariano Rivera card, which I think is my next release. I think it drops on the 27th. I'm not exactly sure. I just got the schedule for the next 3. But I know that Mariano, Mike Trout, and Ricky Henderson are the next cards for me to be released. So the Mariano card was really special because I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
And I grew up going to Yankee games. And I knew Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. And I saw fights break out. And I had beer spilled on my head as a kid. And I smelled weed for the first time in the stands, And like I said, my pops was good friends with some of the old timers. So as a kid, they were gods. They were real heroes.
Yeah.
There was a very authentic, experience of them being of this mythological world, right? Their size, their physique, even, their style. And I was just a kid. I was a scrawny, skinny kid in the 70s. And we'd go down to the dugouts and we'd have balls and bats signed. And, my dad was good friends with Bobby Valentine, who was a manager for the Mets.
Yep.
And Ralph Branca, who pitched
for Brooklyn Dodgers.
The Shot Heard Round the World, as the title of that HBO show. Ralph Branca was his best man at his wedding.
Wow.
My father remained really close with Ralph my whole life, and he was an amazing guy. Tony Ferrera was a pitching coach, and he used to roll up to my birthday parties in the 70s with white patent leather loafers and a pink convertible Cadillac, man. I kid you not. So the Rivera card was really special because I wanted to very directly pay homage to the Bronx, the birth of hip-hop culture, my love of graffiti, which is a big inspiration. And there was so much open space in the card itself. Like it looks like he's just leaning against a column after he showered and left the locker room, and he's just wearing like a golf shirt, khakis. So there's all this open space. So when you see that card, you'll see that I took it to a level that hopefully really celebrates what the Bronx embodies for me, right? Like that DIY culture that informs so much of my artistic and personal identity is really, it's saturated in that card. It's the most intricate one to date. I'm stoked for that to get out there. You know, it's fun to do some research on the players if I didn't already have a connection or knowledge about them, because all I need is like a list of information, and then I give that visual life and language. And you'll see what I'm talking about when you see the Rivera card.
Yeah, I'm excited. The build up, you're building the suspense up, and everyone, and every one of them, Joseph, just because the work's so great, it's almost like I compare it to being, and I can play a little drums, but I'm not in a band or anything. But I sort of compare it to like being in a band, and you have like a huge record go, platinum, and then you got to sort of follow that up with the next album. Do you feel any sort of that as an artist with this project? Do you feel any of that internal, even if it's your own self? Like you feel like, man, that one actually was really good, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback. How am I gonna follow that up?
Man, that's a great question and a really good analogy. And yeah, there's some pressure for sure. It is gaining speed and momentum and steam, if you will. And I'm so grateful that there's just so many fans and collectors that are getting to know my work now. And there's a really great repartee happening between me and all these individuals. So, it's the nature of the chronology and the rollout and the production schedule of a project that has this kind of duration that's conducive to just getting better and better and better and better. So for me, I put that pressure on myself, but the pressure is coming from the fans too, and it's not really pressure. It's just, I want to deliver. I just want to, as I'm hitting my stride conceptually and technically, I'm really conscious of each one getting a little more interesting, a little bit, it's getting tighter and tighter, and at the same time, it's more and more expansive. And the nature of 20 cards, or I'm doing a series of 20 paintings, or 20 illustrations, or a series of 10 toys, right? I like to round things out really conceptually. And there's something that happens when you're doing 20 cards over the course of the year where it's just going to evolve. They're going to take on a life of their own. Yeah. And when all 20 are done, they'll be distinct and they'll be their own. But you'll see how one informs the next, and how the evolution of a formula and a system and a process really starts to marinate maybe like 4 to 10 works in, you know what I mean? I'm putting a lot of thought and time into these, and thankfully, ironically, with this global pandemic and the timing, the alignment of that, I think there's a lot to say there. Maybe we can talk about that a little later, but just to touch on it, I have the time. I mean, I always spec out and put lots of time and energy into what I do, and I'm conscious about all that I'm giving the viewer or the recipient inherent, in the work that I'm doing, all the Easter eggs and all that encrypted information. Yeah. I want people to really discover things over and over and over again, and that's just kind of how I'm thinking, right? Like all that subconscious information. You're like, oh shit, I didn't see that or that or that or that or that. You'll start to, put all the pieces together when you see them all in relation to one another. And I'm just trying to stay really creative and open. So with each one, it's part of the family of 20, and it's completely its own thing. Yeah.
It's also a little bit like a progression there too, as you move along.
Exactly. For sure. Yeah. Like I said, I think I'm hitting stride technically and conceptually, because I've done 8 so far, almost done with the 8th one. And, that's 12 more, man.
Yeah, and before you know it, it's going to go right into December, which is cool. So it get, and I want to talk about something you brought up because I've talked about it myself on the show. The timing obviously wasn't planned as such, and the pandemic is something. It's an unfortunate, obvious, tragic event. But the fact that right now we don't have any live sports, I know some things are starting up at the time of this interview, but baseball season is not starting on time. Hockey, basketball got suspended play. Football remains to be seen how that's going to start or in what form and whatnot. And so we have that void of live sports that us as fans and humans are used to, and never before in these we've had work stoppages in individual sports with like labor agreements, but we've never seen a mass stoppage across all levels of sport. And the timing, and I know Topps didn't do it obviously intentionally, but the timing of it couldn't have been, considering the circumstances. Timing was very kind of serendipity, perfect, because it gave card collectors, sports fans, something to latch on to and enjoy and kind of fill that void, at least at the present time, and then even when it comes back, it's still going to be a huge hit and a huge success. But it definitely, the timing was good, because I think we needed the project.
I think you just put it beautifully, man. I think there's a lot of compensatory action happening.
Yeah.
In other words, this series bringing a lot of collectors' joy and structure and a rhythm and things to look forward to, and 2 cards every 2 weeks and 48 hours, and all time is dissolved, right? Like everyone has to create new structure for themselves now, and whatever that means to each individual, right? Each household. So I think, I'm grateful to have the work and the project and how it's given me structure and real purpose through this. 20 individual works dispersed through all of this time. No one could have predicted anything like this. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you said, it is serendipitous. Yeah. And it is a blessing in disguise. And it is as painful and sad as it's been. And that's sort of the macro world that we're all living in. Having something to look forward to, like a couple of new cards from artists you might not have ever heard of, and just seeing this new, the language of the project, right? The reimagining, the interpretation, the translation, the celebration of these players through artistic eyes and unique contemporary artists across this range of styles and aesthetics. I think it's wonderful, man. And I think there's a world of stuff happening within it, right? Within all the dynamics and the way it's all moving forward and the way we're all interconnecting that, who knows? But I think it's a really, I think it's a gift for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
Is involved in whatever way that they are.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be, obviously, with the pandemic, Joseph, we're going to get, at some point, we're going to be past that, and it'll be something we look back on, maybe not the pandemic itself, obviously, not fondly, but I think the Topps 2020 project is going to be looked back on as a bright part of that time in history.
I hope so. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I just think, I really do think it's a blessing and a gift for everybody involved. And it's bringing new energy and new variables and new factors to how it is unfolding and what it really is going to mean for all the artists and all the collectors,
One more quick break and we'll be right back with JK5. Let me tell you about Iron Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're your number one source for all your PSA grading submission needs. They are constantly submitting, so they are always at the ready when you're ready. They offer various turnaround levels at the lowest prices around. Cards are insured to and from PSA at no additional cost to you. And they even provide the card savers your precious cards need to be put in before being sent to PSA. They take care of that for you. And because of their elite status at PSA, they have some of the best turnaround times around. They even have group chats for each submission, so you know exactly where your status is on your cards. They have open dialogue and open communication. What are you waiting for? Contact Rob on Facebook, on Iron Sports Card Group. That's Iron Sports Card Group on Facebook. Or get a hold of Rob on Twitter at Iron Sports Cards. All one word, at Iron Sports Cards. They'll take care of you. And we are back with JK5. And I know, a lot of the artists that, from the project that I've interviewed so far, that one of the common threads is you've all started at a young age, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, single digit ages for the most part. And
Yes.
and this project, you sometimes I think we lose sight of it, maybe even the artist themselves. There might be a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old that's seeing these works now, and they're the future, JK5s, if you will. Someone's got to carry the torch later on down the line, and so maybe your work and others' works on the project is something that 7-year-old sees now and says, hey, I like to draw. I can't draw like that yet, but I want to do this. And maybe that's the light bulb that turns on and turns their, hey, I can do this. These guys and ladies are doing it. Why can't I? And, maybe, you sometimes you forget that aspect of it, that it may be an inspiration, especially during some down times like we're dealing with. It might give someone, hey, I want to do this when I get older. I want to make a life of doing that, or a career of doing that. And you never know who you're touching or who you're influencing, and that's the beauty of the whole thing.
It's a really sensitive and insightful thing to say, my friend. I mean, I am really conscious of wanting to inspire the kids.
Yeah.
Getting kids into drawing and exposing them to art and different aesthetics and different styles and different perspectives and philosophies. And I'm a father myself. My kids are 11 and 8. And you should see how they're drawing. There's a freedom and an expressivity with this generation that is mind-blowing. Their consciousness is on a whole other level. And all I can do is hope that I'm sparking and inspiring and bringing some joy to these kids that love to draw. And another really cool thing is I really think there's a huge sort of humanscape and sort of cross-pollinating sort of dual market, if you will, that has so much to do with one another between sports fans and art fans. And a lot of collectors and a lot of sports fans or baseball fans or Topps fans, maybe they're really into young culture or young art culture or certain music, urban inspired art or comics or sci-fi. Who knows? It's just like there's all kinds of treats and interesting, interesting crossovers in relationships. And if any of us are inspiring a whole new generation or a whole new demographic or a new fan base to get into expressing themselves in any way, and they're getting these cards, it's a dope thing. It's a really beautiful thing. I think there's a lot of potential to bring artists to sports and vice versa, and the fan, those communities together. And I think Topps can really, just keep nurturing and cultivating this concept in new ways, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I think especially now, it's, there's a lot to it.
So I try to ask all the artists this. It's kind of, some of the stuff, I mean, the work is incredible in its own right, all the artists, and obviously including yourself. How much attention, are you competitive by nature? Do you pay attention to the numbers or what these things are going like on the secondary market? Do you pay much attention to that, or you're like, hey, I'm on to my next piece and it is what it is?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm very competitive and scrutinous and critical of myself. Yeah. And all I care about is making each card as beautiful and interesting and ill as possible. and one-upping myself every time, right? I'm only in competition. I'm only as good as my last piece, sort of all of that philosophy.
Yeah.
As far as the secondary market and the trading aspect and all the autograph cards and all of that, I mean, personally as an artist, it's a learning experience for me. I mean, in the last couple months, I have gained just a much deeper understanding of this particular market and how this system works and all the potential and the way it unfolds and builds and builds and builds and what that could mean to just taking good care of my kids and my family,
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I was really happy with the numbers of my first 3 cards, and then Clemente was on a whole other level. I exponentially quadrupled my numbers and was just really stoked and really grateful and really happy for that. But that's not a motivating factor by any means.
Yeah.
Again, all I care about is making the card as dope and interesting as possible and letting the public decide, right? Like, it's out there in the world and it's out of my hands, and I'm just really concentrating on trying to put together a really beautiful body of work that's going to have its own energy and real historical impact for my own archives, for the world, for the collectors, for my new fans, for my existing fan base, for further future farming opportunities. I'm getting a little too alliterative there. I lost my tongue. I'm a big alliteration nerd. But yeah, it's fascinating, man. And I'm, again, ultimately just stoked to have. There's a lot cooking, and this project is sort of the purveyor and at the forefront of a lot of stuff I'm nurturing right now. So,
yeah, it's good. Now, do you know? I have to ask this. Do you know a lot of the other collaborators, like even before the project?
That's a good question. There's a handful of them that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I really dig their work. I consider them real inspirations and contemporaries. And I've been following a few of them on Instagram for a while. A couple of them are friends, just homies that I've had for a while that I've worked with in the past. And then the rest are just new artists to me.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe, in thirds across.
And the project itself, I know, in talking to Blake, I know he's reached out to the other collaborators. I've heard him talk about your stuff, and he's a huge fan of it.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you, Blake.
No, I'm not. It's on his YouTube, so I know he's had a couple guys on and did like kind of like a jam session with them where they're just talking about their process and their mindset. Cool. And so maybe, hopefully we'll see you even do that with him. But man, I got to say, like I said already, that, your work's incredible. I can't wait to see, you got me all revved up with the Mo talking about that, but even past the Rivera, just the incredible work you do. I don't care really who the player is. It's it could be a bench player, just your spin on it and your detail and your intricacy. It makes that thing pop, and I'm looking forward to every JK5 release at this point.
Well, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate the platform and the exposure.
Oh, you're welcome. I know you're busy. I appreciate your time, and maybe later in the year when a lot more are completed, we can get you back on and kind of catch up.
Let's do that.
Thanks, Joseph.
John, thank you so much, man. Be well. Stay safe, everybody.
You too, Joseph. Thank you.
Take care, man.
We love our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We care about your opinions and feedback and invite you to reach out to us on any of our social media accounts. On Instagram at SportsCardNation Podcast, Twitter at SportsCardNati1, or email the show at SportsCardNationPC@gmail.com. We don't ask for much, but if you really like the show, give us a shout out. Tell your friends or give us a follow on our social medias. If you enjoy the show, please give us a positive review on iTunes or any of the platforms you are listening on. Thank you.
That's going to do it for episode 80 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. First off, I want to thank my tremendous guest, Joseph Ari Aloi, JK5, bringing the heat today from Brooklyn, New York. A little shout out to my hometown, BK. But Joseph, a talented gentleman, from a tattoo artist, a designer. I mean anything. And his artwork on the 2020 project is unique in itself because it's really from the ground up. Like he said, it's all line art and so intricate. And you look at what he's done in the details and some of the hidden numbers and letters inside the work itself. It's just incredible. And like you said, the artists now are hitting their stride. You can kind of see. You really now at the point where when the releases come out, you kind of know who did them without being told. They speak for themselves. And as more and more come out, these men and women are really just stepping their game up. And it's like anything. You keep doing something, you're just gonna hone it and get it better and better. And JK's very busy, so I appreciate him giving some time to the show. It was a pleasure having him on. I hope we can get him on again towards the conclusion of the Project 2020. I just want to say thank everyone else for listening to the show. Incredible. Here we are in episode 80. And without you folks out there, we don't exist. And so to not acknowledge that would be a short sight on my part and not going to happen under my watch. So thank you. During these crazy times that we're in, stay safe, stay well. Next week we have another Topps 2020 Project artist, Andrew Thiel, and another incredible talent. I mean, every single one of these artists are just incredible, and he's doing some incredible work too. And the one thing too, and kind of coming down the home stretch here, and getting to know these artists and talk to them, and even the conversations that don't get recorded and via text and email and talking to them, they're just great individual people. Besides being talented, they're great human beings. And you can't say enough about that, especially in today's day and age. Many of them, if not all of them, do charitable works and give of their time to organizations that do many good deeds and good things, and they're all giving back. They're all using their talents in a positive fashion, and we all should try to strive to do that. Give back, give of yourself, help folks out. I know I always try to close on sort of an uplifting kind of positive thing. And so, if you're a talented individual, give of your talents, whether that's helping a neighbor, whether that's volunteering, from a blood bank, giving blood, whatever you can do, be a positive influence on something or someone. And, there's no better feeling than that. So we'll be back next week for episode 81 with Andrew Thiel. And we'll probably take a little bit of a break with Project 2020 artists, not from the project itself. And then we'll there's many more I do want to speak to. So we'll fire up that machine, hopefully, and get some of those talented individuals on the show if they so choose. So again, folks, be well, take care, be safe. We'll see you in 7 days.
You're going to need a bigger boat.